Hi, Joel W. Brister. This is our Mother's Day video, and this is a real life story about my mother. How a welding rig saved her life, but it also led to her soul being saved, okay? So we drive, and it's 2 weeks goes by from the time I had the thought to go see my mother, all the different ins and outs and trials, any one of them, just a couple of minutes delay in 2 weeks coming from California, my mother would have been dead. If I'd have stopped to use the bathroom on the way from my uncle's house, my mother would be dead. So I'm in the ambulance. Guy puts her in the ambulance. I'm riding with her, and he asked me what I had in there, the oxygen hose, fogging her. He looked away and he came back. He said, "You just saved your mother's life. If you hadn't been here, she would be dead right now." I said, "How's it going?" He said, "It's touch and go, to tell you the truth. My guy's back there. He's talking in my ear. It's touch and go." So we get to the hospital. They wheel her in. It was about an hour and a half before any other family showed up. And the nurse would come out and she would speak to me. And I don't even remember her name. But I remember she came out to me and she said, "Are you a praying man?" Thank God I could say, "Yes, I am." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She said, "You need to pray." She said, "It's touch and go. I don't know if your mother's going to make it." I went and found me a quiet place. I think I went in the bathroom. I locked the door and I got on my knees by the commode. I started praying for my mother's soul because she wasn't saved. And she winds up making it. They got her stabilized. And the next day, they took her out of the ICU, or that night. And so it's like 2 days. She gets put in a room. My wife said, "Are you going to talk to your mother about her soul again?" I had talked to her many times, and she would always block me. And this is what she would block me with. My grandmother was a dear, sweet old French lady, but she did not believe in the salvation of the Bible. And she would always hit me with a high block. "You think your grandmother went to hell? She was a nice lady." And I didn't know what to say. So I go to see her. My wife says, "When are you going to go see her?" I'm saying, "Wait till all the family's gone. I'm going to go see her one more time." So I did. I went about lunchtime. She had finished eating lunch, and we're talking. And I said, "Mom, we need to talk about your soul." I said, "You almost died the other night." And she said, "No, I didn't." And I said, "Yes, you did." "No, I didn't." I said, "Yes, you did." And I backed up and told her the story that I'm telling you. And her eyes got about this big. I said, "How many times are you going to shove Jesus' sacrifice away when he offers it to you? How many times? You are in very bad health right now and you know it. How many times?" There's a thing in the Bible called sinning away your day of grace. God brings you an offer so many times and you shove it away and he says, "Fine. You might live another 10 years, but he takes the Holy Spirit away." And so I'm telling her this. Same thing. I see her getting emotional. I see the Holy Spirit's working. She hits me again. "You think your grandmother went to hell." But this time, the Holy Spirit gave me something different. In the Bible, you may be familiar, there's a story of Lazarus and the rich man. There was a poor man that lived outside a rich man's house and he begged for food. They both died, and one went to hell and one went to what was called Sheol. Before Jesus' sacrifice, it was called paradise. It was a holding place until his sacrifice was made. The people in hell could see the people in paradise, it says, and that is where Jesus was for the 3 days. His body was dead. He didn't die, his body died. And it says when he left there, he took them out. There is no more of that anymore. But it was a holding place, and it was a nice place. And a rich guy, he didn't go to hell because he was rich, but he knew this beggar. They were right there at the gate all the time. He sees the beggar with Abraham, the father of the Jews. And he says to Father Abraham, "Father Abraham, please send Lazarus to dip his fingers in some cool water and bring it to me, because I am tormented in these flames." And Abraham tells him, "Go read it." He said, "Can't do it, son. Between you and us, there's a great barrier fixed." And he said, "Those of us that would come and help you can't, and you can't come over here. It's a done deal." The man realized that. He says this, and this is the key part. He said, "Father Abraham, I have 5 brothers. Send someone to them and tell them about this, lest they come to this awful place." I told my mother, I said, "I don't know if my grandmother was born again or not. I don't know if she even knew how to get saved properly." I said, "But if she died and is not saved," I said, "did your mother love you?" She got a little offensive. She said, "Well, Well, yeah, my mother loved you. I said, she really love you? And she said, yes. And I said, then your mother is like this man. I have 3 daughters. Send someone to them lest they come to this awful place. I said, God has sent someone to tell you about this awful place, and it just happens to be your son. My mother started crying, and that's when God got her heart. And she bowed her head, and she prayed, and she asked Jesus Christ to save her soul. And she died not too long after that, and she died in her sleep. And the reason she's in heaven is because we didn't have any money. I wasn't particularly welcome with my family. There's a lot of things I could tell you. And we pushed through by faith, and my mother's in heaven, and it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. I'm Gerald W. Brister. Talk to you, Mom.